the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Welcome to AVSocial.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's AVSocial. I'm Dawn Mead, one of your hosts, and we just finished this week a highly contentious campaign season, and we're continuing to feel the emotions and after effects of this week's election. So regardless of who you did or did not vote for, we're not going to ask you, we're not going to share ours unless our other folks want to, but regardless, they used a lot of marketing, social media, and advertising throughout the campaign for and against the various candidates. And so today we're going to look at a number of these marketing, social media, and advertising effects and efforts and how they failed or succeeded, and also what lessons we can learn from them that we can then apply to our own industry and our own businesses. So hopefully this won't be too scary and we won't offend anyone, hopefully. But as usual, we are joined this week by my lovely co-host, Kelly Perkins from AVI Systems. Say hello, Kelly.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks for coming today on a fine Sunday afternoon, giving up some football time to join us. And we are also joined this week by our special guest, AVNation's founder and our commander-in-chief, Mr. Tim Albright. Say hello, Tim.
Hello, Tim.
So let's, I guess, just jump right into it. As you know, this week we had our national presidential election. The Electoral College has yet to vote, but as of right now, based on numbers, Mr. Donald Trump is going to be our next president. One of the things that came up in the campaign was the results of traditional advertising. You know what traditional advertising is. It's TV ads, radio ads, print ads. And some of the questions that the election brought up, does traditional advertising still work? Is it worth our money? And how do we make it work for us? The reason I bring this up, there was a story from Campaign Live, and the publication Campaign Live, which we'll reference throughout the show, doesn't have anything to do with elections. It refers to advertising campaigns. So it's an advertising industry publication. In Campaign Live this week, they had a story how traditional advertising failed Hillary Clinton. And if you look at the metrics, Hillary Clinton outspent Donald Trump in key states by over $100 million. The top agencies and the hottest talent in this country and out of this country worked on her ads, both television and radio. Companies that weren't even on the Clinton campaign payroll did ads on their own for foundations and things that supported her campaign. And some of them, according to a lot of the folks in the industry and outside the industry, are some of the best, most beautiful, or most artfully crafted ads, just speaking as an ad, that we've ever seen. How did she not win? That's the question. So we're going to look at the areas she didn't win. First of all, just looking at those statistics and numbers, Tim or Kelly, feel free to jump in. Do you have any thoughts on this? Like, you know, I mean, obviously you guys have done your homework, hopefully, and know the answers here, but what strikes you about these numbers? Am I wrong that by all rights, based on the advertising effort, she should have blown them out of the water? Someone jump in. What are your immediate thoughts?
Based on especially traditional advertising, she, like you said, blew them out of the water. But, you know, again, it goes back to the point of, you know, does traditional advertising work, right? Does it actually work? I mean, you know, you can, you know, the metrics, you know, that you'll get digitally and online, you know, that we can measure that. But as far as, you know, TV ads, the effect it actually has on people and their mindsets and really, you know, making them think one way or another, does it really work? I mean, can we measure that? Can we measure, you know, what goes on inside of people's heads other than they're ranting and raving on social media?
Right.
And the other thing is, you look at from an advertising standpoint, and this is somewhat marketing 101. What are you trying to do, right? What is the ultimate thing that you're trying to accomplish here? As a politician, you're trying to get somebody to get out of their house and go to a polling place and pull the lever for you. So no, it didn't work. Either the message didn't get across, or it didn't connect with the people that it needed to connect to. Dawn made mention of a couple of the other super PACs, right? So the super political action committees that were supporting Secretary Clinton. Josh Whedon's is probably one of the more shared ones. And Josh Whedon is a director and a writer, producer, lots of superhero folks. And he had a lot of famous people in his, and talking about, just please get out and vote. And his was very much a pro-Clinton ad, very well shared. It was not created for traditional media. It was a socially shared online piece, because it was between 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. And he made several different ones. It started out as a please get out and vote, and then it turned into something else. And something that I would, just a comment I would make is, Dawn's right. This was a very tiring, emotionally taxing season. It was emotionally taxing campaign, and both sides beat up on the other ones. My favorite meme of the season, and I have no problem saying that I voted for neither candidate, although I did vote, is convince me to vote for your candidate without mentioning the other one. And I think that this campaign, traditional or otherwise, was a reflection of that tiredness and that exhaustion with, I can't tell you much about me, but this person over here is horrible. Yeah.
Right. And one thing that is worth mentioning, and I don't even think I mentioned it in our emails back and forth planning this show, how much of the failure of traditional media comes about because of the change of our technology. Some of the things that I've read that I don't even think I sent links to you about mentioned that this has been a massive failure of pollsters, because so many people are unplugged from traditional telephones that pollsters are getting voters, the people that actually answer old school phones to talk to them, are completely skewed. Now, that said, you would think that it would skew the opposite way in the polls, because it's older folks and not necessarily the young and the hip that have, still have traditional telephones. Could it be that our choices to unplug from traditional media is starting to affect the way the traditional advertising works? What's the point in spending millions of dollars on ads during the NFL or during, the top rated drama on television when everybody's watching Netflix or Amazon Prime TV or, something like that? Do you guys think that the change in our technology and modes of connecting perhaps played a role in this failure? Kelly, what do you think?
I would completely agree with that. I mean, I get my news from the newspaper, and now I just got a tablet so I can read it like on actual digital technology. But really from just going online, right? So that's where I get the majority of my news. I don't sit down at night and watch, the 9 or 10 o'clock news. Frankly, I don't even think, other than what was on the computer, or on my tablet, I saw any type of traditional advertising for the candidates. You know what I mean? Like I was up until the end of Tuesday, I was getting text messages from people like, get out and vote for God knows what. I signed up at one point, right? But I was getting text messages. I'm going on the news sites. I'm going on social media. So everything that I consumed regarding the election really was, you could almost say new traditional media, right? The new mediums out there like Twitter and Facebook and all over the place, which, frankly, at one point before the election, I just had to shut all of it off because there was so much bashing and hatred and craziness, I feel like, coming out of the woodworks before the election. It was nuts.
Right.
Yeah,
Which brings up, go ahead.
Go ahead, Don.
You're our guest. Go ahead, Jim.
So I was just going to say that I agree with Kelly. Before Tuesday, and I don't. I'm a 42-year-old guy, but I'm not a typical. I don't think I'm typical, at least. I don't watch TV, right? I just don't. Um, I'm with my kids. We watch Netflix or YouTube or Amazon Prime, with the exception of live events. And if I could do it straight up, and some I can. But Tuesday, I was flipping back and forth between a big three, traditional terrestrial, and flipping back between NBC, and CNN, back and forth and back and forth. That was the first time I had done that in probably years. So I'm with Kelly. The ads that I saw, here around in St. Louis, Illinois is clearly a Democratic state, but Missouri was somewhat in play. So you would see billboards, you would see other things, but it's the ads that you saw when you visited websites, right? It was some of that advertising as well. In Tuesday was an interesting view, because seeing what they're still advertising on traditional television was an education.
Right. And we brought up social media, and don't worry, folks, we will be talking about social media here quite a bit. But before we get to that, with the traditional media, one of the things that the publications from Campaign Live and a few other sources mentioned was the difference in messaging. And I think there's a huge thing that as business folks and industry folks, we need to consider about messaging for our own business, that we can learn from this election. One of the key discussions they brought up was, think of the catchphrases used throughout the election. Mr. Trump's campaign, "Make America Great Again." Now, whether you agree with that statement or disagree with that statement, it speaks to the voter. It speaks to the person at the end of the ballot or pen or however you vote in your state. The other campaign, and I say it this way, it was, "I'm with her." It's not focused on the end user, so to speak. It's not focused on the voter. It's focused on the candidate, which, it's saying, yes, I'm voting, I'm choosing to align myself with Ms. Clinton, but it doesn't draw in someone that isn't already on that team, and I believe the Democratic Party also used "Stronger Together" prior to or around the time of the DNC, the convention, to try to bring together the Bernie faction and the Hillary faction, which "Stronger Together" kind of could speak to the whole country, could speak to all voters, but they so narrowly focused it in their media, in their marketing at that time, and their advertising, on bringing the factions of the Democratic Party together, that I think they missed maybe an opportunity to bring together the country as a whole and latch their marketing and advertising efforts to that key phrase.
Yeah.
They possibly could have gotten better traction nationwide than just with "I'm with her." It's the difference, I guess, between a client-focused approach and a candidate or company-focused approach. And for me, the takeaway there is, we can't go talking about ourselves all the time and ignoring our customers' needs, or going with what we want to sell them versus what they need in a particular situation, which I think is a major lesson to learn here. But what do you guys think about this whole take on messaging with the advertising? Maybe I'm missing an insight, or maybe you have something to expand on.
That's interesting. I never thought about it that way, but you're right. And it really does, it aligns nicely with our industry, because it's, don't stop focusing on yourself and focus on the end user, the customer that you're trying to help. Make America great again, focusing on America. "I'm with her," focusing on herself. So I'd never thought about it. That's an interesting take on it.
So Dave Labus is going to love this. Watch this. So there's three candidates or three presidents, I would say, in the last 40 years, who have done this really well, remarkably well. President Obama, President Clinton, and President Reagan. I'm old enough to remember all of them, and remember listening to them speak. They're incredibly engaging speakers, very charismatic. And they do the whole, let's all kind of get this. Reagan famously said, "We'll be a shining city on a hill," right? I mean, that's let's kind of get everybody together. um, they had the advantage of economically coming from a bad spot, right? All three of them. Clinton not as much as the other two, but they all three at least had some sort of economic challenges that they were running against. And they were saying, let's kind of grab us together and let's all lift us ourselves up. Same way in our industry. Stop focusing on the technology, which is the focusing on you, the I'm with me, and focus on the exceptional experiences that Mr. Labuscus has been talking about for 3 years. Focus on what your client actually is trying to achieve. Have a conversation and do more listening than you're doing talking. What are they trying to do? Oh, I need this, and I need 15 projectors in this room, and this. No, what are you trying to do? Right? What is it that you're trying? What are you using this space for? Is it to communicate? Is it to communicate to your clients? Is it to communicate internally? If so, how does that workflow work? What are you actually trying to achieve at the end of the day? If you're trying to achieve a room that you have 15 projectors in, cool. I'll sell you that. But most likely, that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to achieve a specific business objective, and they need technology to do that. Listen to that, and then help them out along the way.
Yeah, I can't remember which manufacturer it was, so don't ask me. But at one of the shows, I was talking to a person from the manufacturer, and they said, I had a client tell me one time, I don't want to hear about your latest box. I want to know how you're going to help with my problem.
Yep.
The pain points. And it's something Infocom has been telling us. It's something we've heard at the BLC. It's something that all the magazines are telling us as business practices to focus on. But somehow in our industry, we're so tech-centered, it doesn't always sink in. And so I guess that's my big takeaway from this election, from the messaging point of view and traditional advertising, is listen to your clients, focus on them, and the answer will come to you. It won't necessarily, it won't necessarily be a popular vote win, but it will be there. You will get the response that you're looking for if you're actually responding to what they need, not just what you're focusing on. So, one other point that they brought up in the talking about traditional advertising here with the election is the role of reputation. No matter who you voted for, I guess the third party folks, so the people that didn't vote can take the high road on this one. No matter who you voted for, both candidates of the major parties this year had some pretty reprehensible things either in their past or their present. Neither one of them was a sterling stand-up ideal candidate with a halo around them. And everybody on both sides pretty much agrees with that, except for a few diehards on either side. So you can't just say this was a problem for Trump or this was a problem for Hillary and that's why she lost. But the perception of the candidates, even within that baggage, the scandals, the problems, that is something that is affected by their advertising. I read a thing that during the election, just in the past couple of weeks, Hillary paused her election to take part in the mannequin challenge online, which we'll get more about the online in a few minutes. But, a lot of people didn't necessarily respond well to that because that hasn't been part of her persona. That hasn't been part of her reputation as someone goofy that hops online to do the mannequin challenge. It seemed calculated. It seemed like, okay, my campaign staff tells me that I need to look more genuine, so I'm going to do this challenge because that's the trend and it should get me numbers, which should equal votes. Whereas Trump, love him or hate him, and a lot of people hate him, speaks his mind, doesn't give a damn. And the perception of some voters has been, yeah, he's a jackass, but he's honest about it. He's honest that he's a jackass. He's an idiot, but he's honest about that, And so this whole disconnect between the perceived reputation and their actions during the campaign was cited in at least one of the articles as a potential other reason why Trump got more votes than Hillary in this thing. On the topic of reputation, what do you think on that, Kelly? Or how does that affect how we choose to market ourselves, I guess?
Yeah, it's interesting, because I've heard that too, that, it's, at least Trump is honest, right? At least he's genuine and authentic and stuff. And maybe you're right. I mean, maybe just, you can be, crazy or an asshole or whatever, but as long as you're honest about it, it's okay. I guess I don't know. I mean, you think about all the candidates in the past, whether it's for presidential elections or local elections and stuff, and you have to kind of think to yourself, like, how genuine are they when they stand up and talk, right? I mean, when they speak to the country, when they speak to your local community, et cetera, is that really them? Is that who they really are? And I mean, I guess other than actually knowing them as a person, you would never know other than by their actions.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of the key. And I think I've heard this, that possibly part of why that tack works so well for Trump over Clinton is he's not a politician. Up until this point, people laughed at the idea of him being a politician. So that whole politician equals dishonest hasn't really stuck to him yet. Yeah, he's an ass and a blowhard, but he's open about it. Whereas even if she was trying to be open, even if she was being open, I don't know her personally, so I don't know if she was open or not about things. You don't get that sense, because just by being labeled a politician, that includes some of that reputation of dishonest, shady, what have you.
Well, and that. Go ahead, Kelly.
No, I was just gonna say, it's almost like comparing it to being overqualified for something, right? Because she, her experience was almost like a negative in this election versus a positive, because it kind of damaged her reputation.
Right. If people want to change, that experience is going to work against you. Yeah.
That is the great irony of this this specific topic, is elitist versus populist, because you have a gentleman who claims to be a billionaire, right? Versus a politician, and just for clarity's sake, she's only been a politician for 16 years. Yes, she has been with her husband for the last 40 as he's been in politics. So you could equate the two, but herself having elections, she has only been a politician for 16 years. Roughly, she won the Senate seat in 2000. The fact that a billionaire has convinced the American public that he is on their side and is the anti-elitist is irony. Yeah, that is irony in
bizarre
most sense. But he did it by saying, I am not X, so therefore I'm with you, right? I'm not a politician. And he's not. He's not a politician. He is a business person. But because he's not, and you guys both said it, because he's not a politician, he's already in the midst of the populist movement. So that's been very, very interesting. And I think that's probably one of the biggest takeaways was in an environment where it was kick all the bums out. He could not be labeled a bum in that sense.
Right. Yeah, I think, from this point of view, the takeaway for me, for our industry and for our businesses, know what your reputation is as a company, but also know what the reputation of your field is. Does your client think AV guy is the trunk slammer that he bought speakers from when he was 18 and didn't know better and wasted all his money? So in his mind now, that's the reputation. Are you dealing with the facilities guy versus the IT guy? And which reputation do you have with those particular people? And then you have to target your message both to which buyer you're speaking to, which is knowing your buyer persona, the whole thing we talked about a few minutes ago with knowing your audience and talking to them in their own words. But then it's also knowing what their objections are based on the reputation and countering them effectively, which I think is something a lot of us need to learn and need to start doing more often in our business. So one thing we've talked about a lot on the show thus far, we've talked about social media. And one of the great articles I read this week, again from Campaign Live, was social media actually predicted Trump's victory because of his sheer metrics and sheer amount of posting and shares and engagement that he received from the population. Even the trolls, granted, they weren't all supporters, sort of predicted this outcome. Let's look at a few numbers. During the campaign, Trump led Clinton on every top-line social media metric: quantity of posting, social interactions, positive interactions, surprisingly, and sharing. During election week, Trump clocked in 16.3 million likes of content and posts versus only 13.1 million for Hillary Clinton. Trump amassed 28.4 million followers versus Clinton's 21.8 million. And he had 2.8 million shares versus only 2.1 million for Hillary. There was one metric where she beat him the week of the election. Clinton suddenly jumped onto social and had 266 separate posts versus Trump's 204. But I mean, that's kind of too little too late at that point. You know, Kelly mentioned earlier, she gets all of her news all of this time through the whole election cycle, mostly from online, except for recently when she muted it because it was annoying. Well, if you're jumping in the week of the election and suddenly putting all your posts there, the people they're experiencing election burnout, they're not even paying attention anymore.
No.
So
Yeah.
I personally think that this is a clear sign that if you're not on social, this is when you need to be there, because it's clear that this was where people were engaging. Kelly, what say you? What think you on this?
I think that's insane. I mean, on the it basically predicted the election. But I mean, it was unbelievable. You guys, everybody knows they were on social media, you know, like all the I feel like the craziness came out of every person that's on there, like posting things. I mean, I laughed at something on Facebook. It was like a dumb little meme or whatever of my friend's aunt. And all of a sudden I get my half sister who lives down in Florida, and I don't see her very often, but she's a big Trump supporter. And this was like an anti-Trump thing that had been posted. And she starts like flooding this feed of my friend's aunt with like all these like Snopes articles and like nastiness. And I was like, what is going on here? I had to pick up the phone and call her and be like you're posting on my friend's aunt's Facebook feed. Like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I didn't realize. I'm so sorry. And I'm like, well, God, I'm like, I don't post stuff on yours or anybody else's. You know what I mean? Like, it's America, be free, you know, or at least respect political beliefs. And it was just amazing in this election. I feel like more than any other, the you know, nastiness came out like full fledged. You know, it was just insane to me.
There was we had on AV Week this week. We were came to you from the AV Executive Conference, and one of the speakers that was there, he's a sales consultant. We were talking, and he made the comment. He said, "I am absolutely shocked the number of people who are actively destroying their online reputation in the wake of this election." Now think about that for a second. Yes, we live in America. Yes, you have freedom of speech. Absolutely, it is my Second Amendment for some people, right? Our good friend Chuck Espinosa, good, big Second Amendment guy. Mine is the first. Okay, not saying I don't like or believe in the Second Amendment, but I feel as passionately or more about the First Amendment than some people do about the Second. The two-edged sword of the First Amendment is that you absolutely have every right to dissent. You have absolutely every right to say, I don't believe in this, or this is not my thing. However, you have to do so in a grown-up manner. You have to do so in a civilized manner. And the reason for that is because as an employer, you have the right to not hire someone based on their reactions. Now, you don't have the right to fire somebody based on their political beliefs, but one of the first things that employers do nowadays and colleges do nowadays is you get an application for employment or to be accepted to a college. One of the first things that they're going to do is they're going to type in Tim Albright, right? They're going to type in Tim Albright into Facebook, into Twitter, into Twitch, into Instagram, and wherever they can. And they're going to find every single post I've ever made public. It's interesting that I have to remind folks in their 20s and 30s and some in their 40s and 50s the same thing I'm having to teach my 10-year-old daughter.
Right.
If you wouldn't say it in front of me, if you wouldn't say it to my face, you don't post it. Okay. And it sounds somewhat harsh, but here's the thing. I was raised to respect people, and I was raised to respect differences of opinions. I have friends on extreme sides of everything and from the left to the right and everything in between. And the level of anger and vitriol is the better word, actually. Anger I can handle. Vitriol is a bit much. It is excessive. And I'm afraid that businesses are going to feel the impact of this because either their CEOs or their owners or their page themselves are posting very unfortunate things, or the employees themselves or these folks who are going to be looking for work in the next 6 months to a year or to 2 years, that this next week is going to come and bite them in the butt.
Right. And one of the things that I mentioned to the two of you before we started recording, I read something this week. There was a company, one of the online companies, I can't remember which exactly, so I won't give the name, I think it is. Their CEO actually came out and said in the wake of the election, if you voted for Trump, if you supported Trump, get out of my company because we don't have room for the types of people like you here. That is problematic because that's illegal. He just opened, if they actually fire these people or drive them out, he's opened himself up to a class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
But it's problematic because, part of what we're founded on is a difference of opinion. We're allowed to express our opinions. We're allowed to have our opinions, so long as those opinions are not affecting their work. So if the employee voted for Trump, even though that's not what the company believes in, that's the employee's business, unless the employee is out doing work for the company saying, well, that other Clinton was an idiot and Trump's better and you suck and whatever. Then, yeah, by all means, fire that person. But to just outright say it, it goes back to acting in a professional manner. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the big takeaways from all the trolling that we've seen during this election cycle for us as individuals and business people. And Kelly and I have done shows on this in the past, on reputation management and on dealing with trolls. Don't engage them. Deal with them, don't get into a back and forth with them. The whole famous Amy's Baking Company meltdown comes to mind with engaging with trolls in a troll-like manner.
Come on.
Yeah. Oh, it is awesome. It's also a perfect case study, and we detail it in one of our earlier shows. But don't do that in response to both the election or just in response to business concerns. You have to address trolls on your page. Don't delete them, because deleting is as bad as addressing them badly. But address them personally, address them professionally, and just say, look, we can take this discussion to our customer service department. We're glad to help you out if that's your problem, but let's take this off the page. And, act professional in the face of it. You look like a bigger person to other customers or potential customers, but you also don't get into that showing your worst side. Mm-hmm. And so, that's one of the big things I took away from that part of the election. So, still on the social topic, one thing that Campaign Live discussed was the fact that there was kind of a little hashtag war with this election. Donald Trump's campaign had hashtag Make America Great Again, which was shortened also to hashtag MAGA, MAGA for Make America Great Again. And they also repeatedly used hashtag America First. Now, whether you agree with those sentiments or not, they were coherent. They were used throughout the campaign and messaging in a consistent way. and they built traction with the customer, the potential voter. The only real hashtag that was attached to the Clinton campaign, and again, it could be just a function of they didn't really do social well until the last week, and even then it's kind of debatable, but they had hashtag I'm with her. And that hashtag wasn't even officially used by the campaign. That was supporters and PACs and just individuals that supported her using that hashtag. And, going back to the messaging we talked about earlier, one is a stronger message than the others. But, if you're going to be using social in your business, in your industry, use it well. Figure out how to use it before you jump in there and use it wrong. Because using it wrong can be as detrimental or more detrimental than not using it at all, I think. Yeah. Kelly, Tim, anything to add there? That was just a key takeaway I found with the whole online aspect.
No, I mean, I would say we at AVNation, you both do work on the social, and Costello is kind of our guerrilla marketer. And the one thing about hashtags is you can try to create one, absolutely, but once it's out there, it's out there. And I yes, I think that of the two campaigns, the Trump campaign probably had a better handle on hashtags in general. But once it's done and once it's been released, you have no control over that. So I'm not personally like, yes, make hashtags part of your thing, but I don't think it's a good indicator, a good factor to as a check mark to say that they failed on this one, because once it's out there, you have no control over it.
Say an example of that is hashtag McDonald's stories, I believe. They tried to, a year or two ago, McDonald's tried to release this hashtag and get people to share stories of, growing up and going to McDonald's with grandma or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it almost instantly was taken over by the folks online and twisted into, McDonald's stories. I ended up with high cholesterol and died at 31, or, so fair point. Be aware of how hashtags can be twisted or used against you, but don't be afraid of them, and don't refuse to engage online for fear of,
yes,
something like that. Just be cautious. Kelly, anything to add there? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Kind of like you guys have mentioned, I mean, once, a lot of hashtags, you could create any hashtag you want, but making sure that people actually use it. Be strategic about it. But did Hillary's campaign come up with a hashtag at all? Do we know that? Or I'm with her one?
According to what I read, they used the phrases "I'm with her," but they didn't really use it as a campaign online. It was only when other groups started using it as a hashtag that occasionally it would pop up. So they kind of really didn't hashtag well, or if they did, I mean, better publications and researchers than I am couldn't find it. So,
yeah, so to me, that's interesting, because I mean, just right there, Donald Trump's marketing team is better. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't, maybe it's.
And I'm sorry, are we surprised at this? I mean, really?
Yeah, no, that's.
You've got a guy. Here's the thing: you've got a guy who had already made several $100 million in real estate, has been marketing himself for 30 plus years as a billionaire. That's kind of been his thing, and then was paid however much he was to be a character of himself on a reality show. This is not a stupid person when it comes to marketing.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's been proven.
Yeah, yeah, obviously.
Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to bring up is the role of big data. Now, I'm the first to admit, I was not a math major or a statistician. Big data and analytics, as important as they are, they scare kind of the bejesus out of me. It's not, they're confusing, like I understand the concept, but digging into it, like I would outsource that because I'm not going to be your girl if you're talking about those sort of things. But this campaign actually proved the efficacy, I think, of big data and analytics mining so amazingly. And again, I refer to a story from Campaign Live. They were all over the election this time for media and marketing. There was a thing called Eagle AI. It's an artificial intelligence that was developed for ITV, which is a UK broadcasting group. And they put in billions of data points about the US election from before they even had the conventions. And they just kept feeding this AI data points so that it can analyze it and dig deep in there. And they actually thought that there was a bug in the software, because from way sooner than anyone even had a thought that this could have happened, Eagle AI was saying Donald Trump is going to be the next president of the United States. That's scary. Like I said, they thought it was a mistake. It went against all conventional wisdom. It went against every single person analyzing the election. And it just kept saying, Trump's going to win. Nope, Trump's going to win. They debug it, Trump's going to win. And so at the end of the day, on Tuesday, the only people that weren't surprised that Trump won, I think, was Eagle AI over in the ITV headquarters. And even the ITV people were like, holy crap, our piece of software, our program here works. So I think the takeaway there, aside from being really ironic, is big data and analytics are not going away. If anything, they're incredibly powerful tools that can see things that we can't or won't see in our own businesses. So if you have someone offering those services that seems reputable, or if you can find somebody that's good at that, maybe we should start looking at that as an industry and as individual business owners, because I'm thinking that's a big thing to look at in the future. Kelly, Tim, did you have any reactions to this other than holy crap like I did?
You know, it's, well, to be fair, Eagle AI had like a 50-50 chance, right? So there's that.
Right. Oh, if you're gonna get all
I'm just kidding. But you know, analytics are so important, and it's so complicated. It's unbelievably complicated. We've been deploying it for about a little over a year now at AVI, and it's like I never realized that what type of rabbit hole I was jumping into until we started going into it. And I mean, it's absolutely amazing what you could do with it. It's just getting from point A to point B is like unbelievably complicated. So yes, you're going to need help more than just probably your internal marketing team. Get an integrated team of folks that can help you with everything from analytics, anything digital, really. You know, analytics, making sure your strategies are all aligned. Try and find an SEO expert. Try and get somebody that's really, you know, hardcore in marketing automation, the inbound, outbound emailing, as well as, you know, a media planner person. It's not just one person or one marketing group. It's a slew of people, and get the experts. Don't try and do it on your own.
Yeah. I remember a story that came out of the 2008 election when the first time President Obama won. They started talking. That was the first time that I had ever heard big data being used in politics. They had gone so far, and not this system, but gone in and looked at demographics of the entire country, and looking at specifically how folks voted in certain counties, and targeted those counties with targeted advertising. So if the county was, you know, predominantly female, let's say, then the mailers and the media that they put in front of people was going to target women, right? If it was an agricultural area, the media that they use and the message that they use for that specific county was going to be targeted for those people and for their concerns. It goes back to listening to your customer and trying to figure out what it is that they need. What is their pain point? As a politician, you need to your job is to speak to that pain point and get them to again get out of the house and go to the polling place and pull the lever for you.
Right. And don't think, folks, that just use of big data and analytics is the realm of politics or I believe in one of our previous shows, Kelly and I talked about a story out of Target, the store, the department store, outed a 16-year-old girl to her parents for being pregnant before she even knew or really released it to her family that she was pregnant.
Wasn't it
Now,
before she even knew? Like before she even realized she was pregnant?
something like that. It was some ridiculously early. Now, how on earth does a machine in a corporate headquarters know, based on, big data, and they go in and they enter in all these points and, okay, you're buying this, you're buying this. Well, our statistics show that, this percentage of women that buy lotion and these other 3 products together are generally pregnant women, and here's why, because, hormones with pregnancy release something makes your skin itchy, blah, blah, blah. There's like all these data points that the machines can hold on to in their electronic brains that we don't. And they were able to say, yeah, chances are this young woman's pregnant, so let's send her coupons for diapers and things like that, which, it's a little scary. It's a little scary, but it proves that there are valid business points to this, that who knows what you can find out about your customers or your competitors, your potential customers, if you were to employ big data and analytics correctly. That said, I do personally think that it's a scary thought, and that's how you get Skynet. Give the AIs too much power, and that's what we're looking for. So this is my little Archer joke for the day.
Archer.
So yeah, folks, there's sort of our recap of the marketing and social media and advertising aspects of the 2016 election. Whether you're happy with the results, whether you're not happy with the results, or whether, like some of us, you're just cautiously optimistic that hopefully things won't get messed up too badly. This is what we've got. But I think that if you go and look objectively at the way the campaigns ran their campaigns, from both candidates and the third-party candidates in some cases, you can find a lot of nuggets in there that are going to be really helpful for your business and for your own career. That was kind of my closing thought. Kelly, any final words here? Where can folks find you and tell us, what's up?
Kelly Perkins here. Thanks for sharing your hour-ish with us. You can find me AVIsystems.com, hashtag on Twitter at AVI_Kelly. Sorry, I've got hashtags on the mind. No, this is a cool topic. It's interesting because, marketing really did, it was the difference between, the president of our country, which is insane. So, I mean, it's powerful, and it's a great topic. So, yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming on the show. And Mr. Tim, thank you for taking time out of your busy Sunday and coming on our little show and everything. Tell us all about you or where to find you.
Oh, mine is the website where you'll find this program and others. So AVNation.tv. If you would like to follow me at this point, I'm counting down to the day when Jay Cutler is no longer a Chicago Bear. So that is at TD Tim David Albright on Twitter.
Okay, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it. And of course, as usual, I'm one of your hosts here at AVSocial, Dawn Mead, with NetAV here in Maryland. You can find our company at netav.com. If it's on Twitter, it's at net_AV. And if you want to find me on Twitter, I'm at AVDawn, and I'm on a lot of other social networks at AVDawn. And of course, here on AVSocial and AVNation, you'll find me just all over the place. Just Google me, Thanks again, as Kelly said, for spending most of an hour with us today talking about the election in hopefully a non-scary, non-confrontational way, and looking at ways that this nightmare of the past 16-ish months can actually benefit your business. We appreciate you watching and hope to see you here at the next AVSocial. Thanks so much. Bye.